In 1964, Zambia gained her independence. In 1965, Zambia commenced her contribution to the liberation struggles in Southern Africa. It is an important era in the history of our country. Though all countries now boast of self-rule, the era is still very much a part of Zambia's life. Join us on this interesting trail of documenting Zambia's contribution to the liberation struggles. This time, we're heading to a village called Kavalamanja. Why Kavalamanja, you may ask? Well, let us see what comes out from there. The journey begins at YEZI Arts offices in Lusaka. It's not an ordinary trip. It is a journey in search of what happened to an area whose name is so much whispered. The voices of those who know more about what happened remain inaudible. Our team heads eastward towards the Luangwa River, Zambia's fourth largest river. It is a distance of approximately 240 kilometers. We take a turn off the Great East Road and head on the rugged gravel road of approximately 78 kilometers to a district called Luangwa. A stopover at Katondwe Mission is helpful for the team. Katondwe Mission was once a sanctuary for many internally displaced people during the liberation wars, especially Zambians running away from the volatile borders of now Mozambique and Zimbabwe. It's approximately 45 kilometers from Luangwa District. Knowing where you're going and having some insights on what to expect gives the team more confidence.
Since you said your interest is mostly the war in Kavalamanja, and probably there are some of the people who have lived long, though old, but they are quite sharp in mind.
The parish priest gives us a hand.
Because after Kavalamanja school, there you have this other one, this other hill.
Nyamtoe.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Luangwa District is located at the confluence of the Luangwa and mighty Zambezi River. The former name is Feira, which means slave market. Other generations recall it being called Denero, or as the locals would pronounce, Janero. Hopefully, in our future episodes, we will explore the interesting historical documentations of this place. The sun rises the next day, revealing a segment of beautiful Zambia. But for us, it is time to continue our mission, heading to Kavalamanja. Captain Stanislaus Kalunga, the district commissioner for the district, is on hand to welcome the entourage.
Thank you for having chosen to come to Luangwa as YEZI Arts and Production team. You know, Zambia, like many other countries, our forefathers, the leaders, the president, they had met that time so that Southern Africa is liberated. And as usual, the border areas suffered most. And Luangwa is not an exception. By then called Feira. We had a series of encounters from our neighbors from southern Rhodesia, and a lot of properties were destroyed by then. And as such, because it was our policy that we liberate other African countries in the southern region.
His assistance extends in linking us to Mr. Lawrence Henry Tapiseni, currently local court justice. Mr. Tapiseni is one of the living institutional memories of the area. Besides him being a local, he also has a personal contribution to serving the lives of people in the area when he single-handedly arrested an armed Portuguese soldier who strayed into Luangwa during the wars in Mozambique. He is our hero at the frontier.
My person who was born here, educated here, I did my standard 6 at Katondwe. Then from there I had to join agriculture. I stayed there in agriculture within the district for 7 years. Then 1971, January 11th, I had to join Messengers Force. I went for interviews, I was picked. Then I retired in 1996. 2000 I had to join the judiciary. It's where I am up to now. I know background of Luangwa. Our forefathers came from Mozambique, but I was born here myself. No, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Mr. Tapiseni, our distinguished mentor, is a wealth of knowledge and, in all fairness, an accomplished oral historian.
We are starting with the Kavalamanja. Then from Kavalamanja, we are going to go further again to go and see the graveyard, which people were killed with a jet. 6 died at some spot, and I witnessed it myself. I was there burning those people. That is the Kakaro village.
So this is the
Kavalamanja tunnel. Then from there we shall go and see the graveyard at Kakaro.
Okay.
Kakaro is
It's down this hill down.
Oh, okay.
There are some 3 villages there.
Okay.
The graveyard is just here, near by the roadside.
Okay.
Finally, we arrive in Kavalamanja, a grueling terrain filled with anxiety.
He's the headmaster, school manager.
On 6th March 1978, at around 0945, Ian Smith's Southern Rhodesian Air Force dropped the first 2 bombs at Luangwa Boma. The bombs targeted to destroy 2 fuel tanks near Zesco, but missed them by about 100 meters. Earlier, 2 other water tanks had been hit. 15 minutes later, the enemy struck at Kavalamanja.
I remember the war started on March 6, 1978. More of our people died than the guerrillas, the freedom fighters who were fighting for their independence.
Freedom fighter. Huh?
Yes, we saw the war. Before then, we didn't know what war was. We found out there and then.
What we saw were 2 jets coming from this direction. We took cover as we had been taught, crawling into the bush, each one for himself.
Others knew that war was going to come. We elder people didn't know. The younger people did. So we were seated in our fields. The waters of the Zambesi were high, as my son says. It was raining as I sat there, and my husband had gone to Zonda Akome. I had twins I was breastfeeding, and the other child was still young. My neighbor from the next field came over and insisted we sit together. I wondered why. This was unusual for my quiet neighbor. And then the jets came. I put both my children on the ground and huddled them for us to die together. I didn't know what was happening.
From this direction, some big twin-engine planes dropped paratroopers.
I stood there as the planes flew over me. More and more planes flew over me. They kept flying over me until about this time. Then I thought to leave the place, fearing to die with my children. I had been there for a very long time, looking at those gorillas in the plains that had come for the gorillas here. I suppose if they had come for us, we would have all been killed.
They dropped paratroopers all around us. We were surrounded, trapped inside, together with gorillas and some soldiers. Other gorillas were over there. The helicopters were right here. The planes that dropped paratroopers turned back. There were altogether 4 helicopters that arrived here as the planes continued to bomb.
So manje my helicopter yabwera 4 my helicopter manje nchimanji majeti yapominga my helicopter nayenso yapiga kinyansi
Helicopter cha open.
A big open helicopter came.
Why?
They were shooting down at us like this. I stayed in one place, even urinated on myself. I felt no hunger. I saw so many of my colleagues being slaughtered.
Even if it was your child dying before you, you would abandon them.
When all the helicopters had arrived, the planes then left to go and block the reinforcements from arriving by road.
By evenings, a lot of gorillas had escaped, but many had died. I personally lost 2 of my children.
Edwin.
The younger ones were saying, With all that shooting, if we stay inside, we will die. So 2 of them ran and hid in a thicket. A rebel soldier opened fire on them, smashing the arm of one and killed her baby. The other girl died on the spot.
Yes, Tilibu lost a child who was trying to escape that open helicopter. The gorillas were shooting back, that to no avail. The soldiers fought back, especially the soldier that was stationed here. He kept fighting from morning until afternoon.
Karima, Captain Karima.
We knew he had died when his guns went silent. He hit many of the enemy planes, but they would go and crash on the Zambian side. We would see them burn as they went down. Meanwhile, I escaped to that hill, but I didn't see the other group.
By late evening, we had had nothing to eat, and my husband in Zondakome thought to himself, my wife must be dead. He started to try and make his way back to us. Every time the guns sounded, he would crouch even more. I started to cry, and my children asked me why I was crying. I told them, don't worry and don't ask me. At about that time, my husband arrived, and he asked, are you all right? And how are the children? It was the same for everyone. We were all pinned down. No one ate and no one went to the toilet. The war went on the whole day. No one could move. You had to urinate where you sat.
Later in the evening, the guerrillas returned fire fiercely, and the helicopters resorted to ferrying back their wounded.
As night fell, the waters subsided, and the families gathered together in the bush away from their houses. It was drizzling. It was cold, and the children were shivering.
My husband took one of the children. I remained with the other. Even if you laid next to a snake, it would not bite. We really suffered. No one could leave. They were now smashing the bridge there.
The soldiers tried to communicate with Lusaka by radio, but communication had been cut off. Lusaka could not hear us. We really suffered.
How are we going to escape? We are going to die right here. All 5 of our family were together. We asked ourselves after the rain had soaked us the whole night whether we should go to Kakaro. But what about the noises coming from that direction? Some said no, we won't manage by the road. Let's just stay here.
Early in the morning, the helicopters came again, firing in all directions, flash out whoever had remained.
Without a single belonging, we went through that bush, with our children on our backs, on and on through the bush, not feeling the thorns. We reached the road and headed towards the fields of Kakaro. As we got near Kakaro, the planes came again, and we were stuck there the whole day. We thought we would be killed if we followed the road, but others said no. We were shivering, the children were crying, and we failed to breastfeed them.
Most people stayed there and did not return. Some of us braved it out, living like wild birds, fetching water in the bush, not daring to get it from the Zambezi River.
Some of our friends went in this direction, all the way through the bush to Mulunda. They were heading to Mpuka. We who were on this side just went on until we got to Kakaro, spending the whole day stuck in the bush. I did see the war.
Yes, the war went on for 2 days. On the third day is when it subsided.
The battle for Kavalamanja lasted close to 72 hours. Reportedly, the death toll was 22 lives. It is alleged that the area was inhabited by close to 600 villagers. There was also a presence of a similar number of freedom fighters from Joshua Nkomo's Zipra forces and a company strength contingent from the Zambia National Defense Forces. However, the real count of those who died will always remain a mystery. What is true, nevertheless, is that the area experienced an unprecedented carnage of both humans and other forms of life. According to reports, the Southern Rhodesian Army defied international rules of engagement, as they even used a prohibited bomb by the United Nations, napalm, which accounted for extensive burns and destructions. The whole of Luangwa District was under siege. Elsewhere in the district, the enemy continued with his systematic attacks. Kakaro village, which has already been alluded to, was a place many people fleeing the Boma and Kavalamanja went to seek refuge. However, it is also one of the areas which was not spared by the attacks. Notably, 6 people were brutally killed at Kakaro. We visited Kakaro village, school, and the surrounding areas.
We are going at Kakaro. We are going to stop there and see the graveyard where 6 people were buried. After 3 days, they got rot, and those people were buried by us. The graveyard is there, on that big tree there.
We can't go that side.
We can go. Just here. Yes. Yes. It's very near.
Do you live here?
Yes, we live here.
Were you there during that war in which Shambololo was burnt?
6 months. Mudaiona Land Rover agriculture. Shambolo ndiye anaidrive. Inapsela to here nali kuchita ku.
I remember we had to use a shovel to free the body from the steering wheel. We buried them over there. That Land Rover came as far as that metal roofed house. Shambololo stopped to ask if it was safe to continue with the jets flying around. As he spoke, 2 jets appeared and opened fire. A man and a woman jumped out of the Land Rover and took cover in that hut. Chabicheka took cover behind that tree, but the color of his national service uniform exposed him. He was targeted. He tried to run to that bridge over there, but he was hit. We then saw his leg flying through the air. We waited up until 18 hours, then we ventured out to take stock. It took another 3 days before we could be able to collect the bodies. Only after the soldiers had come did we collect the bodies.
Memories of what happened still remain fresh and impacting.
We had 2 Malayas here. Malaya of registration of St. Church, the one who is here. Then Malaya was our head messenger here. I found him working.
I think he's given registration.
Okay.
There are 6 people here. You see, people were afraid, so the body stayed there for 3 days. We helped in the burying of the dead. We buried them in a hurry. Without coffins, we threw them in the holes that we had dug, fearing to be attacked. We had dug a large hole, and everybody helped in carrying the remains. That was impossible. Just impossible. We just threw them into the ground. We realized now that this was war. We ran and hid in the cemetery with no fear of the graves. The freedom fighters from the camp at the gate tried to alert authorities, but they were spotted and attacked. They jumped out of the truck to escape. The plane missed the first time because the truck was speeding, but it returned. Then the driver was shot in the chest and killed.
When the war had subsided, all the chickens at Kakaro were slaughtered. For days, these chickens had been feasting on maggots from decomposing and uncollected bodies.
Fourteen others were burnt in a truck bringing in food rations.
Further north of the district, battalion reinforcements, mainly from Arakan barracks in Lusaka, met with heavy air bombardments as enemy jets strafed the convoy.
Plus the truck, it was loaded with ration, and including even ammunitions, with the people inside and the driver. It was from Lusaka getting ration and ammunitions.
They had to hit that one there. That Land Rover 6 dead. Then they had to hit this one here. They had to hit another vehicle, the army. Another vehicle again, another truck, another small vehicle. From there they had to hit again the other vehicle, truck, ya Masoja. I'll show you where it was.
Many of our brothers and sisters lost their lives, were injured, and others still suffer intense mental challenges. Others still live, and others have since died.
The situation was not normal. War was still going on. Jets going up and down. We had a fear if we travel, we are going to die also. In fact, after Bali, when we were coming back with the truck of army, we nearly be attacked again, just at Soweto again. We had to jump out. All the people here, they had to run. We ran away. Going Buga, others had to remain at Kakaro. Others went as far as to their homes, Chipata, Kitwe, but working class people. There was not even a single person here. We were surprised hearing that, you know, there is somebody who has come just on transfer, the district political secretary. His house is there. That's Mr. Johnny Shtimanjovu, and that one is the wife. When the people were running away from the township, workers, including even the DBS, ran away to Katondwe. The government had to decide that, no, let's we get a local person who was here at the DPS, bring him back. He will never run away from the war.
Yes, you know, of course these things happened. I arrived here about 16 hours. We are all over water, it's flooded. It is true, I found nobody. Police, I just found 2 or 3 policemen on duty.
Some escaped Kakalo and Chifumpuka. Others hereby Chiendeende.
You know what? If somebody takes you away from your home, there where you go, don't you remember your home? Some of us returned early, others are yet to, and others have since died.
So then, the maize was left abandoned in the fields. We would sneak here early in the morning in groups of 5 or 6 to collect some maize, and then sneak back to Chiendeende. Yes, they were ravaged by hunger since they had abandoned their fields. They had no food, and food was difficult to find. All they could do was beg from here and there. Government had brought in some relief food, but the biggest problem was the deaths that were incurred.
I went to all these places where the Rhodesian bombed, like Kavalamanja. I was given a chance to go there. Of course, my dear, it was bad.
That was the war. We died. Yes, we really perished.
The whole place was smelling of decomposing bodies. There was no way of digging the graves to bury our friends.
You can't move your vehicle like this. Fearing to be bombed. To touch on the landmines. We fear the landmines. Especially on the main road is all. No. It was still fresh, yeah.
Stream jets were moving up and down.
But the jets were moving.
Why was Fader being followed so much?
We were the Nkomo's freedom fighters. Okay. They were staying at Janeiro. Yeah.
Okay, I see.
But the best, the famous one is Kavalamanja.
The famous one is Kavalamanja.
Yes, please.
Okay.
And without these freedom fighters, people could not die at Kavalamanja. They were following those people to kill those. So as a result, they were killing together with the innocent people, Zambian people.
For me, it showed me that we had a high love for our friends, so that they could also get independence. I think that's the only experience I got, because we were very, very united. If we were to be apart with our friends, definitely Zimbabwe we are not going to liberate.
Yeah, in one or another, it was exciting to see soldiers falling up on the parade. We would hear trumpets singing in the barracks. All we hear is soldiers running to the parade. All of a sudden, they detour to the madrasas. They would do conveyed, then you see people parking. You rush home, you find your father also parking. You know, I'm going for operations, I'm going for work. But little do we know that this work was a bullet war or a bullet work. But sometimes it was sad because to hear the father to your friend hasn't, or it was just a funeral. What has happened? He has died. Like there was a time there were a lot of funerals in the campaign, and that was the time that after I started analyzing things. Those were the wars of liberation in Fera and so on and so forth. And later on, we would sit down with him. Tell me one or two things. When I started growing now, I was able to understand and read the situation.
Historically,
during that war, all of Kavalamanja had run away. Some had gone to Kakaro, some had gone to Chiendeyende, to Mpuka, to Janeiro. Can you tell me why they had run away? Who here can give me a good explanation? Why did they run away?
We heard that people ran away from the wars. They sought refuge at Kakaro and Puka. And it took a long time for some of them to come back.
Books should be written so that all children will learn about this in that school.
The story of Kavalamanja is one of the many encounters that Zambia faced along its borders with southern Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe.
Luangwa suffered because of being a defensive kind of area, defending the rest of Zambia by these rebels who were coming from southern Rhodesia.
The police told us these were freedom fighters. Then they said they will live with us here. We asked if that wouldn't bring us war. They said no, not at all. After a month, these people started crossing with their boats. They crossed over by night. In the morning, there were many, many people that had crossed. These were the gorillas that we had been told of.
We saw our friends from Kavalamanja. They were coming from the bush, some of them carrying mats. Some had lost their children. Some had lost their husbands and other relatives. So many people died. Some of us were lucky to have survived.
The cost of war still remains in the memories of people, especially the locals, innocent victims of the war.
I'm not alone. Many of us still mourn.
Experienced definitely some deaths. Some soldiers died. We were trying to liberate Zimbabwe because I remember when we had the first Republican President, Dr. Kaunda, he used even to sing a song. let's fight, you know, so that our friends also get some independence as we got ourselves in Zambia.
It is time to think about the sacrifices they made.
They went into the bush to collect the bones, identifying Zambian remains and Zimbabwean remains. Then they buried them in separate mass graves.
Future generations are at a disadvantage, especially as we continue to lose institutional memories.
You have to know. You must produce books so that even if you go, those who come in, they will have to see what happened. Like, you know, 78 is a long way.
Zambia's history, specifically in relation to the liberation struggles in Southern Africa, needs to become a part of our orientation. Learning institutions can play an important role.